Well, welcome back. This is our fourth and final week of talking about how to find your identity in Christ. Over the last 3 weeks, we've kind of dove into this topic and talked about several different aspects of it. We've talked about how to identify if you're living with a false identity. We've talked about how to transform your thinking with God's truth. We've also talked about last week about who you will become if you actually dive in and grab a hold of your true identity. This week, our final week, we're going to look at how it takes discipline to transform our lives. If you want to dive into this topic a little bit more, this whole series has been based off of a Bible study I wrote called Authentic Living, and you can find that Bible study on my website. But talking about discipline, the discipline part's the hard part. The desire part's the easy part. I mean, think about it. We are always desiring to be more, have more, do more, and that's not the hard part. The hard part is seeing those desires actually play out. And that's hard because none of us like to be disciplined. None of us like to take the steps that it takes to see those desires played out. Proverbs 5:23 says, "For a lack of discipline they will die, led astray by their own folly." Without discipline, we're going to stay in the same place of desire. We're going to have these feelings of greed and jealousy that won't go away because we're not disciplining ourselves to see those desires played out. And that's not what God intended for us. He didn't intend for us to stay in a place where we're crippled by our greed. He intended for us to have desires that motivated us to take those disciplined action steps. And that's our key thought for today. It's desire will motivate us towards the goal, but discipline is what will move us towards the goal. Now, since we have the desire part down, we're going to spend just the next few minutes on talking about discipline. What are the key points to being disciplined? And the first one is that you have to be willing to commit. Galatians 6:8 says, "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we don't give up." It's not about trying to have a true identity in Christ. It's about committing to finding the truth and living that truth out so that we will have a true identity in Christ. You can't walk around saying, "Well, I'll try. We're going to see what happens." No, you have to be committed to finding that truth. You are going to grow weary. You are going to get tired, but don't give up. Stay committed. Let desire motivate you to stay disciplined in this process. The second thing about discipline is that you have to be willing to do your part. In Hebrews 12:11, it says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but actually painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." There is no substitute. There is no excuses. You have to be willing to do what God is telling you to do. That is the part of discipline that's hard, but no excuses, no substitutions. Take a hold of what God's telling you and move forward with it. The third part of being disciplined is that you have to be willing to trust. Jesus is talking in Matthew 19:26, and he says, "With man, this is impossible." Finding your identity in Christ, if you try to do that through man, it's going to be impossible. But with God, all things are possible. If you want to find a true identity, the only way that you're going to find it is through Christ. You can do this, he's telling you. He's giving you strength. He's giving you the things that you need. It's not going to be easy. It's not like you're not going to struggle, but God's going to make it possible. You're going to have questions and get frustrated, and he's going to come alongside of you, strengthen you. He's going to give you times of rest, and he's going to answer some of those questions and then send you on your way again. 2 Corinthians 12:8-10 says, "3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I am weak, he is strong." You know, when you can't stand up under the pressure any longer, He's going to give you the strength. When you can't think of another person that they can walk all over you. I just can't handle it. I can't handle if somebody else tells me I did something wrong. I can't handle another person walking all over me. He will give you the strength to continue going. It's going to take time and it's going to take hard work. But you can do this. Buckle your seatbelt. Dig into God's truth. Grab a hold of His strength and become who God says you can become. Find your identity in Christ.